Hi, I'm Britton LaRue, and this is Moon to Moon. Moon to Moon is a space to consider, celebrate, and share the ways we come home to ourselves, anchor through change, and uncover our power. 1 month, one phase, one loving step at a time. Dear Moon to Moon, it's Britton, and I have another beautiful conversation for you here today with returning guest Mary Grisey. Mary is a psychic medium, a multidimensional channeler, and visual artist. And she was on, I believe it was in February. Mary was on an episode called Remembering Your Gifts. And that is definitely like a top favorite for Moon to Moon. Certainly, it's been one of the most downloaded of 2024. So Mary and I are in active conversation regularly with one another. And we've known we were going to do another episode for some time. And this one came together really quickly. It was sort of like, do you want to come on? Yeah. What's a good time next week? This time. Okay, let's do it. It came together really quickly. And I'm grateful to Mary for playing with me and just coming on. Not really even having a plan for this conversation, not even really having a theme, just trusting it was going to go someplace interesting because we like talking with one another. Mary has been a really important part of my life and my work for certainly the last 5-6 months because we've been doing one-on-one mentorship with one another, as in she's my mentor. Mary has been helping me to cultivate practice, which is also to say to cultivate confidence, which is also to say to cultivate self-trust in deeper and deeper connection with what we could call my channel. It's not like I didn't have a relationship with my channel. It's not like I didn't know how to channel before I was working with Mary. But every intuitive guide that you work with, many of you know this, but maybe you don't. In the field of intuition and psychic development, mediumship, channeling, witchcraft, mysticism, woo, this kind of like layered multi-sets of fields that have shared sets of practices and language. Nobody does it the same, you know? There's not like a set rule, like this is what it looks like. These are the steps. Gnosis, hearing your own information, as well as receiving channel information from mystery. These are not things that can be congealed into like a rigid dogma, you know? This is stuff that is cultivated from subjectivity and from feeling, from personal feeling. And that's part of why I love it. And that's part of why I feel like it's such a field for forever learning, where like we can never really say we know everything. We can't say like, I already know how to do that. It's like, yep, you know how to do that, but through somebody else's teachings, through somebody else's subjectivity, things may ding differently, ping differently, open differently, and new practices can come into form for yourself. You can weave these things in and ignore the stuff that doesn't feel like it resonates through your own subjectivity. So this mentorship with Mary has been opening my own practices in really exciting ways that have also been scary, and have also invited me to be in the beginner's mind, to stay humble, and to be in that space of, I don't know everything. I'm willing to learn. And I always think it's important for me as a teacher to regularly be in the state of being a student for my own remembering of what it is to be a student, and also to break up any hardening that has occurred around like thinking that I might be the master who knows everything or something like this, you know. Mary has such an incredible warmth and sense of humor and grounded presence and playfulness that I feel myself just incredibly comfortable with her. I really enjoy learning with her. I feel myself to be friends with Mary, and I feel more playful and self-trusting when I'm with her, which I think is what is like the conditions for growth. You know, it's the conditions for expansiveness. It's the conditions for new, interesting, weird things to happen. And I know other people feel that way too. Many in my community have found their way over into Mary's. And I thank Rebecca Paget, who's a shared student of both Mary and I's, for connecting us, Mary and me, rather. Thank you, Rebecca. So something that we talk about in this episode, because we get a lot into channeling here and talking about what channeling is, since that's both of our obsessions right now. As you'll hear from, like, in this period of working with me, Mary's also been having these openings and these big shifts. And Mary is learning things about channeling as she's guiding me in channeling. And this feels extremely expansive to be in this with my mentor. But one of the things that we discuss is that we've sort of found ourselves, Mary and I, into this place for me as a space holder to many, like where I might be able to grow the confidence to be able to be in a channeled state, not just when I'm alone in Zoom or alone in recording an audio that I then share with my students. But what if I could hold inside of my channel the voice that comes through, the intelligence of the spirit that comes through my voice in a live space where my community is able to ask me questions and I let that voice come through me. And so this is what Mary and I are now feeling our way into for me, as part of my service, as part of what I'm learning to provide as a provider in my work. is the self-trust to be able to hold that pose in like a Q&A type format. And this, like my dream is that this is what I will be doing in the Moon to Moon Q&As, the live Q&As at the end of each of the Moon to Moon modules. Moon to Moon is my fall class where we are like intuition, listening to the inner voice, psychic development, past, present, future, discernment with the different voices that we hear, whether that's how do we know it's ours or it's our parents? How do we know it's a voice of fear that's trying to protect us, or the voice of our wise self? Moon to Moon is this fall, starts the first week of September. Information will be in the show notes if you want to learn about Moon to Moon. But it's all asynchronous. It's all going to be, it's going to be a mix of prepared and channel transmissions that are recorded. And then I will also have live Q&As. And my dream is to feel able to be able to allow the intelligence of the spirit that's guiding Moon to Moon to be able to come through in a live way, which I think already does happen. It's just that I usually go in and out. I go in and out. And it's more like accidental when I hit the groove and then I'm in the voice. My dream is to practice to come to a place where I can just open and like hold there and stay there intentionally, so that students can ask that voice to respond to their questions, which is, of course, me. Like, it is me, but it's also me in a blend with this kind of like larger frequency. Whatever it is, it's mysterious. That's part of what Moon to Moon, the course, is about, is becoming people who walk a mystery path. Like letting that come through and seeing what that feels like, seeing what it feels like for me, seeing what it feels like for participants. It feels really exciting. So I'm grateful to Mary for bringing us to this place where we're intuiting that this is where my work is going, and coming and talking about the art of channeling in this conversation that I'm about to share with you. So inviting listeners to feel into Mary's voice, and if her voice resonates with you, I will share different ways that you can connect with Mary and her work and her upcoming courses in the show notes. So please do check those out. Those who are in Emergence Astrology Year 1, which we began at the summer solstice, it's a year-long class, y'all already know what's been coming through. Like, folks in that class receive these channeled transmissions, like out of this world. I'm singing, I'm chanting, like all kinds of stuff comes through. And for me, what it feels like is a set of beings that want to speak through me to those who've gathered in year 1. So I've gotten used now to opening up for my year 1 class, but all of that is asynchronous. Like, what I'm moving towards is being able to do it asynchronously or synchronously, and feel rooted in myself, right? Like, feel rooted in my practice, feel rooted in my instrument, which I've been practicing for 7.5 years, with various teachers and various mentors. And it's always going to be a pathway I'm on. I don't know that I'm going to be doing this in 5 years. In 5 years, I'll see where my practice is then, because Moon to Moon, meaning cycle to cycle, we don't know. Like, we can't know. we're just emergently with what is here now. And what is here now is like 2024 is a big Mary Grisey year for me. So I'm very honored to share her voice with you now. And I hope that you receive something interesting, something supportive and nourishing, something catalyzing perhaps from what comes through here. Thank you so much, Mary, and thank you all listeners. Enjoy. Welcome to Moon, Mary Grisey, back again.
Thank you for having me.
I had so much fun with you in our February episode, Remembering Your Gifts, it was called.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was awesome.
And it felt like we could just talk and talk and talk. And I think that one went pretty long because it was just like a natural kind of flowing. And then I shared in the outro or the intro of that episode that after we had quit recording, we started talking about working together with you as my mentor. And
Yes.
that episode initiated this whole thing that we've been on together,
Mm-hmm.
which is me working with you one-on-one. And so I'd love to talk about that a little bit because it's been such an opening experience and is very much shifting my experience of reality, first of all, of what's possible, which is something that I find very exciting. I'm always interested in shifting what I think is possible. And then now we're going at it again when we're in a round 2 of our mentorship. Yeah, I wanted to ask you, we decided, I don't remember if it was before we started or on the first day, that the focus was going to be on channeling. And so we went into this experience. And before I go any further, I would love for you to invite listeners into this vocabulary around
Mm-hmm.
what
Mm-hmm.
is channeling.
Yeah. So what we've been doing is allowing spirit to speak through us and using our vocal cords, using our voice. Um and it's so interesting, you speak of um you know our mentorship in 2 parts, right? And I love when this happens with certain students and that we are almost paralleling each other's growth or spiritual um evolution. And maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I feel like from the first time we worked together in the first round of the one-to-one mentorship, personally I was going through a lot of my own growth and understanding of what I'm offering, in my work. And then the second round, which we're still in the process of working together, um, I have just had a lot of personal epiphanies, and I think more around what my beliefs are in what I'm channeling and what I guess I don't want to use the word job, but what my job is as the channeler. And yeah, it's been a definitely like a profound shift. And I know that you've been having, some shifts in your work.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to stay on track when we're working together. We just want to talk about all the things.
Yeah. Would you like to share some about the shifts that have been, and I imagine, what one believes is part of what's guiding the path. And so when there's a belief shift, there's a consequent path shift, and so
Yeah.
we go.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. So I feel like, those brain exploding emojis, like I feel
Yes.
like it's been a just a constant brain exploding emoji since the beginning of this year. It's been a definitely like just understanding more about what I'm doing and also less about what I'm doing. And just really sinking into the great mystery or the unknown, and just I think being okay with not really knowing the next thing I'm going to say or do or do. But I used to believe when I started doing this like voice channeling was I'm channeling these beings who I called the Council of 12, and they are these interdimensional or extra, I don't know, dimensional, or you can even just call them aliens. These beings that are not from Earth. Some are still in a body. So some are still like incarnated, some are not, or form or formless. And I had this, I have this connection with them, and I'm channeling, their inspiration and their wisdom through me. And I kind of felt at the time like, okay, like I still feel a little bit separate, from them, or I felt like they were this hive mind, or they were this like higher thing than me, and I came into the awareness these past few months that I I actually like am them. That's this higher, they're like this other version of me, this like fractal, um maybe they're this parallel part of my soul, right? And it was deeply profound that I'm coming to the realization as a channeler that, because I channel different, it's not just the Council of 12. It's, I also channel this mother uh consciousness, divine feminine, I guess you could say too, called Mem, which is more recent. And what I believe to be doing is just channeling different aspects of me. And that these beings, interdimensional, or this other, like mother consciousness, it's just I'm expressing my reality. I'm expressing myself. And that blew my mind, that channeling instantly became easier and more easeful than me, squinting my forehead, trying to get into the trance state, and really being, I think, just seeking, rather than just being passive and receiving, and it being so much easier when I'm realized that I'm not separate from this higher intelligence. I hope I'm making sense with what I'm saying.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, from my perspective, just to ground listeners in, the mentorship one and mentorship two, which have now become quite distinct feeling. They feel like completely different containers. In the first round, I learned how to open and to receive the intelligence of whatever spirit was wanting to work with me for these intentions that we would set, or that the sitter was setting, whether that was you or whether that was someone from your community I'd never met before.
Mhm.
And this was very scary for me because I had felt myself to have been channeling, and I still think I was at some level, but this was like a asking of me. It felt like a different level of receptivity. And I was almost terrified. I was like afraid that it would be found out to be true, that like I had never been channeling and I never will be. like some kind of curtain was going to be pulled back and like, gotcha, you
Yeah.
never were channeling. And I did learn from you like these different distinctions from feeling into like, you use the word inspired writing or
Yeah.
inspired kind of speech, which as distinct from a more like a channeled writing or channeled speech. Is that something that you would still describe the same way now as you did then?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think that we're all doing something that is inspired, by spirit or our spirit or, something, when we're being creative, I think. Because we're opening up to that sort of like other brainwave state, that is not we're not in the information thinking mind, right? Um, but when we move into like the technical, I guess, aspect of the channeled states, you are you're intentionally working, um, or you're going into, with the intention, is what I mean, to have spirit either speak through you or write through your hand or draw if you're doing, drawing or painting, or any type of even dancing, music. So I think it really lies in like the intention, and channeled versus inspired. I think channeled is just a deeper state of passivity where you are really stepping back and allowing sorry, and you are allowing that merging, that blending with the spirit intelligence, right? In a deeper way. Whereas inspired feels like I think like a lighter blend, or like I think we're doing it all the time, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Even
Mm-hmm.
washing the dishes is
Mm-hmm.
inspired.
Yes. Yes. It's such a great feeling
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
connected to the inspired state. And then, yes, um, the level of trust that the channeled state was requiring, it may, I don't know, maybe it gets a lot easier. I'm finding it is getting easier, but
Yeah.
in those
Yeah.
first rounds, it was it was sort of like, felt like I was like taking my hands off, truly off like reins, or just
Yeah.
like real. I think you used the picture like sitting back in the like the one of those like bouncy balls or something,
Yes.
or a
Yeah.
beanbag chair or
Feedback.
something.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that was really helpful to me. Or I think you also used a picture around like sitting in water or something like
Uh-huh.
this. Like those were all really helpful, like sensational pictures to help me sense the kind of leaning back that would be
Mm-hmm.
helpful to just allow. And I've shared it on Moon to Moon here in a previous episode, how in our final session, like the closing test,
Mm-hmm.
when you brought in someone from your community, that it was this wild experience of just sharing everything that I was like I felt like I was writing a voice and just sharing out my mouth what was appearing to ride. And
Mm-hmm.
then afterward, finding out that all these completely random things that I was saying were evidential to this person's experience and deeply supportive, and just I'm still blown away by having that experience.
I love
And I
that.
remember you shared with me that one of your most like evidential mediumship readings was the first one.
Yeah. 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 There's something about this like beginner mind where you have no expectations of how high to put that bar, like you're just going in like a child and what do I have to lose? I've never done this, and, so I think like a lot of it is about unlearning and then learning and then unlearning again. It's like this, like
Yes.
take, put on the clothes, take off the clothes, because our mind wants to be right. Our mind wants to control, to keep us safe, and, ultimately. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I'm always like, how do I get back to that first reading?
I wrote down just before we came into the Zoom room, channeling is surely one of the most emergent experiences there is. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what I feel like I'm really learning and loving is like, as someone who ostensibly is dedicating her life to emergence,
Yeah.
like this, it like, even like, let's say you're having like this really creative, uh, expansive connection with your partner sexually.
Mhm.
Like you don't know where it's going. That's part of the fun of it. It's a dance between you, but there at some level you do know kind of where it will end. And like you're enjoying getting to this place, but I feel like with these it's also it's also a surrendering of what any kind of a destination is, and just trusting it's simply going to close and complete when
Mhm.
it's closure and completion becomes available, and like that in itself is something that's emergent to the experience, and it's just such a wild and profound experience of trust.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going into, if you're like channeling for someone or a group, you're going into it just with complete trust that all I need to do is speak from the truth in which I'm experiencing, um and express it, and not trying to judge what's coming through, or oh, this is wild, this is out of left field, they won't understand this, and and I think the mind is going to be just the biggest roadblock for this work. And it's really incredible, yeah, what comes through when we can just sit back and trust. And when we speak, you're like, oh, more is coming after I speak. Oh, wait, more is coming. And it's just really, I just noticed when I started channeling, like it improves every area of my life, of letting go and how to be a human living this spiritual experience, and how to love myself. And that if I'm channeling for someone else, it's like it really shows me that we are all not different. We're all, because if I'm giving you a channeling, like if I observe the words that are coming out of my mouth, but they're for you, I know that they're also for me, because spirit is intelligent and they know exactly, like what to say that will be resonant for both of our experiences, which is really amazing, you know, in that sense to channel for a group. Because I don't think anyone in that group who would be listening to this to a channeler speak would be there by accident. I think that it's all orchestrated. Those are my 2 cents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And is what you're sharing here part of what has been a kind of shift or a realization around quote unquote purpose, you know, like the idea of your role or that you were mentioning earlier?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's really the shift is both personally, in my spiritual breakthrough or evolution, or I always joke around my 10,000 spiritual awakening that I have in this incarnation. Um, it's really about me understanding that the less that I do or the less that I'm involved, um, it just becomes easier. And that it doesn't need to be, my mind doesn't really need to know like everything or where this interdimensional being, what planet they're from, or this feminine consciousness is like Mary Magdalene, or that this is like, I don't know, Isis, or it's just about um being that intelligence and letting that intelligence inform me on a somatic level, and knowing that it is simultaneously healing me, and I don't know, attuning, I guess that's a good word, attuning me. I don't really like the word upgrading, so I'm going to say attunement. um,
Yes.
attuning me to this resonance so that I can be of better service. And I, it's really incredible. Like, I feel so much more comfortable in the unknown now, where, I mean, what do I have? Like, a Mercury Venus in Virgo. So my mind is, you know, constantly getting nosy, and it wants to just like judge all the things. And I'm like, it's this has been my greatest gift, channeling. And it's really allowed, you know, my evidential mediumship practice to shine so that I can really bring the voice of the spirit communicator in, without that filter of like, oh, is this the right, do I say this right? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And and again, I just think that the more that I just am trusting that, like, it's okay that I don't consciously know totally what's going on after I channeled. I know that that resonance entered my body and has changed me on a cellular level. And I know that it's changed the whoever received the channeling too, if anyone did. Sometimes I'll channel for myself, but um so I think the change that's been happening with me lately is more, I can't articulate it. I can't use, I mean, I'm trying to, but I think it's more of, you know, the biggest thing is it's a somatic essence level, and doing less, I think that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, the mentorship too, the first invitation was to practice what you call trance healing. Not saying you made that up, although maybe you did, the name, in which was basically coming into this trance state, and correct me if I'm not describing it the way you would, but um allowing the intelligence of the spirit to enter my field,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
and then and brightening it, or I'm bright beforehand, maybe, and then just allowing the intelligence of that spirit to send healing energy to whoever's sitting with me. How would you describe trance healing?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I well personally, I think that it's happening when you're channeling or, if you're doing some like voice channeling. I think that it innately is just going to happen because the resonance from the voice is entering your client or whoever you're channeling for their field. And in that sense, it is a healing energy that imbues within that field. So I think like innately, naturally, it's going to be healing. But I think if there were no words spoken, that that's fine too. You're sending healing. And I like to think of it as, I like to visualize things. I'm a big visualizer, and I like to visualize if I was doing a healing for you. I'm this big bubble of light, right? And you're this big bubble of light, and our bubbles become one, and we merge and we blend together. And then I'm allowing, spirit intelligence to come through into our bubble, and it's moving through me to you. And it really is me just allowing that spirit to send you the healing through me. And I'm allowing and I'm observing. I can probably see or feel, what's going on. And I would even say that the healer is, or the channeler is receiving that healing simultaneously. And we both walk out transformed, basically.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I think what was really profound for me is in this case to not be using my voice and to
yeah.
practice trusting that sitting inside of this frequency with this intention and holding there um was like quote unquote doing the thing,
Mhm.
and that it wasn't because what I said was so profound or something like this, which is where my mind can have attachments around, that's where my worth is.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's the profound thing about it is you are receiving like a avalanche of energy, your way. And like I said earlier, you can't sometimes articulate in words, the feeling that is, being imbued within you. And it can be an emotional healing, it can be a physical, um, like an ailment, an illness healing. It can be an attunement, like you are now in the 10th dimension. Just kidding. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good, it was like a really helpful exercise for my ego attachments and also just how joyful and expansive it feels to basically like sit and radiate without like it revealed to me that I have the kinds of pressure I put on myself when I didn't have to um,
Mm-hmm.
speak, which I think then like created a transformation for me because it helped me to see how I can release myself from those pressures. as a practice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I felt the same way when I learned how to do that. It was like, oh, I don't have to say anything. I don't have to like fill this awkward gap with words or, and it's also about to, um, or at least what I'm picking up on is our need as humans to people please or please others in that moment. And sometimes words aren't going to be that thing. And sometimes we think we know better what that person needs, but maybe it's just through this moment of silence and the energy that is coming through. Um, so, yeah.
Thank you for that. This is talking about profound.
Full moon vibes right here.
Yeah, for those who are entering this world, how do you differentiate between keywords like intuition, psychic development,
Yeah.
or reading someone psychically, mediumship, and then where does channeling fit in for you among this banquet of goodies?
Yeah. So intuition, we'll start there because intuition is something we all have. Um, it's something that, oh, like I have this feeling that there's going to be a parking spot in front of this Whole Foods. Sure enough, there is, kind of mundane example, but we all have this ability within that's embedded within us. And then so intuition is with the self, and with what, in your own being, right? It's your own instrument. And then the psychic is when you are intuiting another. So it's from a soul to soul. And you're essentially like if I'm giving a psychic reading, it's reading the past, present, and probable futures of the person. So it's essentially like if I'm reading you psychically, like I'm going to be reading your aura, and within your aura or your electromagnetic field has all the goodies, your banquet of goodies that I need to um I need to tell you basically. And it's always, based on your greatest need, at that time. And then the mediumship level is the spirit level where I am connecting with, a discarnate loved one that is in your aura, but it's no longer like I'm reading you. So why they're in your aura is because they love you and they're tethered to you by love. So yeah, they're always around, whether you like it or not. And then we move to the channeled state, where you are allowing the spirit communicator, or, spirit intelligence, to speak through you, write through you, draw through you, dance through you, make music through you. Like it could be like a lot of things. But you are the difference between channeling and, let's say, the psychic is like I'm no longer Mary speaking. I'm no longer saying like, Britton, I think, I'm seeing this thing in the past for you, and this is some inner child stuff, and it's more like um I don't speak in this like the Mary voice anymore. It's I when I channel, it's a hive mind, so I'm usually saying we. And the cadence and the tone of my voice can shift because the spirit's going to use my voice in a certain way. Words that I use that I no longer or sorry, that I don't usually use, like dear one. I don't really say that. Maybe in my newsletter. But I don't say that on a normal basis. And my love, like just things like this. My words can shift. It can sound quite poetic, channeling, metaphorical. It's inspiring, it's philosophical, it's full of intelligent wisdom. And yeah, in channeling, there's so many ways, like I said before, you can use channeling. So it's infinite, really. But really, yeah, you're just in a deeper altered state and you're allowing spirit to move through you. More
Hmm.
directly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Um, we had one of our sessions last week, and I've gone back and re-listened to the in the session. I got into a channeled state, to a state two channel, and that we set it up in this like Q&A format where you ask me super cool questions. I mean, oh my gosh, the questions. I guess you started with like, what can you tell us about the Earth's consciousness?
Yes. Yeah, I have it written down. I loved it. Hmm.
What a cool experience. And truly like really unclear afterward what I said. Which I think I'm noticing is a real theme with channeling, is
Yes.
it is quite an altered state. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It you I don't remember like every word, but I do remember the feeling always after.
Mhm.
It's like always the feeling that stays with me. Of course, I was listening to you. I was not in a channeled state, so I was like eating up all your words. I'm like, wow, the elements, tell me more. And I'm like, is this spirit gonna think I'm annoying? Like all
Oh my
these
gosh.
questions.
I remember hearing, in meditation coming into it, Mary's going to ask us questions.
Yeah.
Like this excitement. um, yeah, so something that often comes up for those who are learning is this sense of like, well, but I imagined that though, or like, isn't that just my imagination? Like, what I'm curious how you
Yeah.
respond to students who are nervous about their imagination, like confusing the message.
Yeah. So the pretty much it's like the discernment between, is this me speaking or is this the spirit? Like discerning between that. Okay. Um, so I always just like to go back to, you aren't separate, like first of all, from what you're channeling. In some aspect, right? Um, so you're expressing an aspect I believe to be true, from yourself. And I do think that when someone is first like learning how to channel, you know, probably the first few sentences kind of are coming from you.
Mhm.
And it's okay to acknowledge that. And I think it's really important to just start speaking. So if this is like vocal, voice channeling, then just get those first words out. And even if it's like, I feel them here, if I'm still Mary, if Mary's still here, I can feel them here. They're stepping forward. And I just need to say that just to get it going. And that will at least open the voice box and open the vocal cords, get it going. Because sometimes I don't know if this happens with you, but sometimes when you're so deep in that state, in the, that altered state, it's almost hard to open your throat, like your mouth. You're just so like in it. So I always say it's just good to start speaking. And then it's almost like a cup that's being emptied. You need to empty the cup so more words or thought consciousness can enter that cup. And I think channeling is just a emptying and a refilling essentially. You got to say what you're being given or what your experience is, what's being expressed to you, and then express it, and then trust that there's going to be more after you express that thing. If that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah, I feel like in the beginning of these sessions, I feel so much more clairvoyantly, like I'm just seeing so much,
Yeah.
and I could kind of just stay there,
Hmm.
but then nothing. That'd be a great experience for me, and maybe in that state my presence is also still very healing, but the goal being to get words out of my mouth.
Yeah.
It feels like almost like having to get on a moving horse or something. Not that I have ever done that, but
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like it's a thing that is moving. Maybe
Yes.
you use the analogy of like the surfboard and back in your
Yeah.
class. Um,
I use it's like a fast moving train. You got to jump
oh,
on or
yes,
it'll pass you by.
yes, that's what. And then once I'm going, that's what was really cool about having you ask questions is that then as it kind of closed,
Hmm.
you could then get it going again with a question and then I get on again. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's wow, what a cool experience.
Yeah. But it's also, I think channeling, like developing how to sustain the connection, because sometimes it's hard to hold it and to um sometimes we think we're done, but we've just popped out of our power, you know?
Uh-huh.
So that's another thing that I think it's important to um know when, when we're in our mind, or um we don't believe that there's anything else, that to say. I'm like, spirit's always got something to say. So I think it's really important to be working on that sustaining this link, this connection.
Mhm.
And yeah, it can be sometimes exhausting, because sometimes we realize we're using our own battery, and that's another thing as well, when to know you're doing that. So
Yeah, wow. Yes, I mean, this what I've been learning from you, as you know, I've been bringing into these recorded transmissions in my year-long astrology class, and it has been pretty much the most fun thing ever. And very healing as someone who came from this academic background with like lecture notes and a prepared slideshow and like it was all pre-planned, and
mhm,
slowly over these years moving more like wanting to really be a oral teacher, and trust in the process of just kind of showing up and speaking, uh learning to just trust that it's really about getting into that place where I feel like you say in your power, in
mhm.
my power, and then just pressing record and just like finding out what comes through is the coolest thing. So I'm excited to see where it continues to go because this has always really been my dream as a astrology speaker, speech artist, I've been saying.
Speech. Love that. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I also wanted to ask you before we close, like how you how you find words to support someone who doesn't know that they can trust their inner voice or trust their intuition, maybe because like deep patterns of that led to self mistrust. How to support someone in trusting that like what they're feeling or sensing, knowing isn't fear based, but is their own wise voice talking to them. Because I think fear versus intuition is just
Yeah.
something so
Yeah.
many of us know.
Yeah. Oof. Um, I think that, I could answer that in so many ways, depending on, what route I want to take. But I think that the need, again, like I was talking about earlier, the need to please, right?
Mhm.
And if we're talking on a level of like someone who wants to give readings or channelings or, um, we have someone's life in our hands, or we are deeply wanting to please, or I don't know if please is the right word, but create a successful experience, I guess. And what is successful, right? I think that having someone learn to trust their voice is that they need to just express what is true in their soul, in their heart. And I think as long as we can all do that and just be true and authentic to our experience, I know that's so simple, but it really is the key to um doing that. You're living that inspiration to others to also be true and not compare, not feel like they have imposter syndrome or, um, they're not enough. And I think there's this strong vibe lately with a lot of people I know that are really working on this thing of like, maybe because we're in Leo season, I I don't know,
Yeah.
but it's this like, what is my truth? Am I walking the walk? And what do I need to do to get there, to
Mm.
live that true hearted experience? And I think this just walks parallel with like this work, because in channeling, um, you simply can't speak anything else but what is true, that is moving through you. This pure spirit expression. And I think that that fear that creeps up is, I won't speak from other people, everyone's going to have, again, their own experience, but is this my inner child? Is this trauma from my generational trauma, ancestral trauma, my own, experiences that have led me here to not trust because I'm going to look stupid. I'm going to be wrong. I'm going to hurt this person by this thing that I'm going to say that feels so true. Um, so I think we have to learn that we're not responsible, for other people outside of, the container of the reading or whatever we're doing, right? We're not really responsible for their reactions or their emotions. Of course, we shouldn't be like shit people. I
Yeah.
don't rec- I don't recommend that.
It's not going
Um,
to happen if you're living from the heart truth.
right, right. But yeah, I think that's something I'm definitely working on, is like, you're not responsible. You're not responsible. It's really, so it's really important that we, yeah, the sovereignty aspect.
Wow. Thank you. I feel like that was a really powerful answer. Um, and supportive to me, and I'm sure everyone listening right now. That right there is like, there it all is. Spoken by the Leo.
Little drum roll.
Well, thank you for being here with me today. Tell us what's going on with you. I know you have a fall class coming up.
I do. Yeah.
Mhm.
It starts September 1st. It's an 8-week circle. It's called Spirit Language and Evidential Mediumship Circle. And it's for beginners, no experience necessary. Also for like those intermediate mediums who want to brush up. And I mean, it's really welcome to anyone. The more the merrier. And it's really just how do we connect with spirit? How do we enter this world, the crazy world of mediumship? And yeah, it's going to be really fun. Because I've been focusing, like on the channeling, and it'll be fun to kind of meld a little bit of that into
Mhm.
this. So yeah, and then my readings open in for the fall. And I have a wait list on my website, and yeah, people can join my Patreon if they want.
I didn't realize you had a Patreon.
I know. I need to get
Oh.
better at marketing. That's another
Mhm.
thing on the list that I need to be yeah, slowly getting better at that. So
Well, I've been your student in your course, Architecture of Remembering, and you are an amazing teacher. And I've been your mentee. I am your mentee, and you are an incredible mentor. This is why I'm come back, obviously. And
oh,
you're also like just ridiculously gifted one-on-one
thank
medium
you.
and healer.
Thank you so much.
Mhm. Thank you. Links to all your things will be in the show notes so people can find you and your work. And thank you, Mary. I always love to be with you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
Talking to
absolutely.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary Grisey. Thanks for sharing your wisdom with Moon to Moon and the Moon to Moon community. Thank you all, listeners, for being here with me and Mary. I hope this was nourishing for you. If it was, I hope you'll leave a rating and review for the podcast. And I'm inviting you to check out Mary's work. I'll provide any links you might wish to have. And if you are feeling the call to Moon, inviting you to go check out the course page, learn all about it, feel into it, listen for resonance. I'm going to be continuing to talk about Moon to Moon in my newsletter with some longer form writing, and an Instagram with shorter form writing. And here in the podcast Moon to Moon, where now I have a suite of podcasts that are either directly or indirectly related to the themes of the class. We begin the first week of September. It's all asynchronous except for the 3 live Q&As that happen at the end of September, October, and November, at the end of those lunar cycles for each of those 3 modules of the class. All right. If you have any questions about the course, please reach out to my assistant, Mary Kate, at info@brittonlarue.com. I would love to see you there. This is my foundational course. It's the heart of my work, And I'm so proud to be creating all new material this year. Cheers.